On Court 3, she had recently fallen in love. Alex Eala had finally gotten the retribution she had been waiting for 2 years. However, Elena-Gabriela Ruse did not leave the Cincinnati court in silence. What the Romanian said next left the tennis world in astonishment, and it had nothing to do with the result. The stage was set at the Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio. The air was dense with expectancy. And standing across the net was a ghost from Eala's past, Elena-Gabriela Ruse, the Romanian who had shattered her heart in the 2024 U.S. Open qualifications. That loss had stung. Ruse hacked out a 3-6-6-1-6-4 victory, denying the Filipino what would have been her first main draw appearance in a Grand Slam. For Eala, it was a reminder of how close she was and how far she still had to go. But this was a different Eala. The girl who had lost to Ruse 2 years ago, when she was ranked No. 53 and the Romanian stood at number 122, was gone. In her place stood the world number 20, a WTA 500 champion, and a player who had just established she belonged among the top. The match began with Eala firing on all cylinders. She had got a first-round bye as the number 17 seed, the highest seeding of her career at a WTA 1000 event, giving her vital time to recover from the difficult Toronto run. She entered the tournament with newfound confidence after a little rest, having achieved her maiden WTA Tour Singles Championship at the Mubadala DC Open just weeks previously. "I think I came in with a terrific mindset today," Eala seemed to say with every swing. She controlled the rallies, set the pace, and prevented Ruse from developing a routine. She owned the court. She had the moment. Eala had done more than just advance. She had summoned a demon when the final point was won, a 6-4 6-2 thrashing that startled everyone in the event. She had demonstrated that her ascent was not an anomaly. And she had messaged the other participants in the draw. It was only the beginning of the Eala Express. Eala had already defeated each of her previous 7 opponents on her revenge tour, so this triumph represented a new phase in her journey. Renata Zarazua, Maya Joint, Iga Swiatek, Zheng Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, and Americans Jessica Pegula and Alicia Parks have all been defeated by her. Ruse was now on that list. The world number 20 had come, the $7.4 million tournament was on notice, and she was prepared to leave her imprint. One of the most amazing tales in women's tennis is Alex Eala's journey from a sad youngster at Flushing Meadows to a top 20 competitor in Cincinnati. Eala, a 19-year-old still finding her footing on the professional circuit, was ranked 153 when she met Elena-Gabriela Ruse at the 2024 U.S. Open qualifications. It had been a heartbreaking match. A 3-6-6-1-6-4 defeat that kept her out of the Grand Slam main draw. Although the loss was painful, it also stoked a fire that would burn for 2 years. The data show that by August 2026, Eala had risen 133 ranks in just 2 years to a career-high number 20 in the globe. Her breakthrough came at the Mubadala DC Open, where she jumped 8 spots and earned 500 ranking points to become the first Filipina to win a WTA Tour event. In a single tournament, she had defeated 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka, Olympic gold medalist Zheng Qinwen, reigning champion Leylah Fernandez, world number 10 Elena Svitolina, and world number 3 Jessica Pegula. Her reputation as a formidable force would have been solidified by that run alone. Eala didn't end there, though. She was the first Filipina seeded in a Grand Slam main event at Wimbledon. She maintained her momentum on the North American hardcourt swing by making it to the round of 16 at the Canadian Open in Toronto. She had arrived in Cincinnati as the 17th seed, a first-round bye, and a rendezvous with her former self. The revenge tour continues. Eala's triumph over Ruse was the most recent in what has come to be known as a revenge tour, a series of triumphs over opponents. Renata Zarazua, Maya Joint, Iga Swiatek, Zheng Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, Jessica Pegula, and Alicia Parks have all already been vanquished by her. The 9th name on that list was Ruse. However, there was more to the revenge than a single game. It was about demonstrating that the 2 years that had passed between their encounters had been a period of development, selflessness, and steadfast faith. Beyond the court, Eala's development was more about maturity than rankings and titles. She had considered her voyage earlier this year in Abu Dhabi. "I believe there are noticeable variations in every facet of my game. More than that, though, I believe it's simply my maturity and how I handle situations on the court. I'm a little stronger and more mature physically. Growth is well-rounded. In Cincinnati, that maturity was evident. The girl who had left Court 7 at Flushing Meadows crying was no longer there. She was replaced by a lady who had discovered how to turn the anguish of losing into motivation for winning. Eala had now demonstrated that the evolution was finished with a 6-4, 6-2 destruction of deception. The winner was here. Alex Eala had been waiting 2 years for revenge, and she had just received a 6-4-6-2 setback. However, Elena-Gabriela Ruse did not silently vanish into the tunnel as she left Court 3 at the Lindner Family Tennis Center. Romanian media recorded the Romanian's post-match comments, which revealed something surprising. Ruse, the 28-year-old veteran who had refused to give Eala a U.S. In 2024, she opened the main draw spot and recognized the change she had seen in her opponent. She acknowledged that, coming from an opponent who had just been destroyed, Eala is one of the new stars of the WTA Tour. Those were powerful words. Ruse, who has defeated top 10 players like Barbara Krejcikova and has a career-high ranking of number 51, understands what elite tennis looks like. Her appreciation of Eala's standing was not merely a compliment. Rather, it was a recognition of the arrival of the Filipino phenomenon. Eala had stated before to the game that there was momentum. Your confidence can be boosted by playing a number of matches, but nothing is certain. She had survived the bout thanks to that methodical technique. Ruse saw that she executed without getting ahead of herself. The Filipina had grown into something much greater than the player who had lost that qualification 2 years prior, according to the lady who had once shattered Eala's heart at Flushing Meadows. There was clear respect. The former world number 4 and 1997 U.S. Open finalist Greg Rosetsky had anticipated this. He had remarked of Eala prior to the battle, "She competes, she fights, and she's so mentally tough that it doesn't matter who's in her way. To defeat her, you must have exceptional tennis skills." Ruse had personally experienced that lesson, and her startling revelation demonstrated that Eala's ascent was not only a tale for Filipinos but also one that the tennis community as a whole was starting to accept. The tennis community took notice as soon as Elena-Gabriela Ruse's post-match comments became public. Not because she had made any contentious remarks, but rather because of what she stated regarding Alex Eala's metamorphosis. The simplicity of Ruse's acknowledgement was startling. She referred to Eala as one of the WTA circuit's rising talents. Those statements were significant coming from an opponent who had just lost 64-62. Ruse, a 28-year-old veteran with a WTA title and a career-high ranking of number 51, was familiar with the characteristics of elite tennis. She was now admitting that the Filipina had arrived after defeating players in the top 10, including Barbara Krejcikova. The tennis community had been increasingly fascinated by Eala's ascent. A few weeks prior, former world number 1 Andy Roddick had commented on her performance, complimenting her ability to set up lethal follow-up shots with a slower serve. The distinction is that not everyone can hit a slow serve and get away with it. If you don't square up that return, Eala can crush the next ball, according to Roddick. He pointed out that Eala's ability to smash the middle ball quickly in both directions makes her a weapon even in the absence of physical strength. An even more audacious evaluation was made by former world number 4 and 1997 U.S. Open finalist Greg Rosetsky. Eala is the person to watch in Cincinnati, according to Rosetsky's podcast, and he believes she can overcome any obstacle in her draw. Rosetsky said, "Yeah, no question about it," in response to the issue of whether Eala might finish in the top 10 by the end of the U.S. Open. He brushed off worries about a difficult Cincinnati draw that featured Linda Noskova and Amanda Anisimova. Whether she is playing Anisimova or anyone else in the section, why should it matter? Rosetsky remarked. Take a look at who Hillary defeated to win Washington. From beginning to end, the players were of the highest caliber. He pointed out that Eala had won matches despite running on fumes and emotions during her run in Toronto. She fights, competes, and is so mentally tough that she doesn't care who gets in her way. To defeat her, you must have exceptional tennis skills. And the only direction I can see her going is up. The tennis community's response was evident. Ruse had recognized Eala's ascent. Her strategy had been undermined by Roddick. Her future had been foreseen by Rosetsky. The WTA was also keeping a close eye on the Filipino phenomenon as she advanced to the Cincinnati Open. What happens when a player dominates an opponent in a rematch after that opponent had denied them a Grand Slam debut? When the tennis establishment starts referring to you as the person to watch, What happens? Will Alex Eala demonstrate that the prophecies are accurate or only compliments when she takes the court in Cincinnati? The triumph was final. The retaliation was delicious. The Cincinnati Open, however, is far from over for Alex Eala. Eala has guaranteed her place in the round of 32 at the $7.4 million WTA 1000 event after defeating Elena-Gabriela Ruse 6-4, 6-2. She received $47,375 Rule P 2.9 million for the win, which kept her on course for what might be the most lucrative run of her career at this level. However, the road ahead is perilous. A possible matchup with world number 10 Amanda Anisimova, who has been in incredible form this season, awaits Eala in the third round. The American would be a big step up in competition because of her strong ground strokes and aggressive baseline game. If Eala defeats Anisimova, it would be her 10th victory against a top 10 opponent in her career and demonstrate that her ascent is not an anomaly. The draw provides no relief beyond Anisimova. A possible opponent in the fourth round is Linda Noskova, who defeated Eala twice in 2026, including a crushing 6-2-6-0 loss at Indian Wells. A quarterfinal rematch with Jessica Pegula, the opponent Eala upset in the Washington final, may also be in the cards if she keeps up her momentum. Iga Swiatek and Elena Rybakina, the Canadian Open finalists, are in the top half of the draw. Eala has already shown she can outperform the two most reliable performers on tour. She is a member of the elite, as evidenced by her 9-4 record versus opponents ranked in the top 10, 7 of which came in 2026 alone. Eala's rating and confidence going into the U.S. Open, which starts on August 30th at Flushing Meadows, Queens, would both rise with the ultimate prize, a deep run in Cincinnati. Any player's season might be completely changed by the 1,085,220 and 1,000 ranking points that the Cincinnati champion will receive. For Eala, the Cincinnati Open is much more than just winning money or exacting retribution. It has to do with momentum. It's all about getting ready. Additionally, it's about demonstrating that her breakthrough season is only the start. After leaving Toronto, Eala stated, "I'm counting my blessings," immediately anticipating Cincinnati. "I'm hoping to apply the things I've learned over the past 2 weeks even more effectively in Cincinnati and New York." The Eala Express continues to operate after the lessons were learnt and the retribution was carried out. What happens when a young woman from Manila takes the court against a top 10 opponent with a position in the round of 16 up for grabs after exacting revenge for a loss from 2 years ago? What happens if the WTA recognizes that Alex Eala is a serious contender for the biggest tennis tournaments and not merely a rising star? Will Alex Eala demonstrate that the Revenge Tour is only the start of something much greater as she takes on Amanda Anisimova in Cincinnati? The responses are still being composed. One thing is certain, though, the tennis community is keeping an eye on the Eala Express when it arrives in Cincinnati. Alex Eala is still on his retribution tour. The world number 20 now faces a possible matchup with world number 10 Amanda Anisimova after defeating Elena-Gabriela Ruse 64-62 at the $7.4 million Cincinnati Open. Eala has exacted revenge on her 2024 U.S. Open qualification loss and demonstrated that her ascent is not an anomaly. The Eala Express continues to advance toward the U.S. Open. Click the subscribe button and enable notifications if you liked this story. Every week, we bring you the most dramatic, emotional, and significant tennis tales. Don't miss what comes next.